Welcome to ADHD Whiskey. My name is Matt. Today, 1 Ounce Wednesday. On 1 Ounce Wednesday, I take a blind sample, typically out of the box behind me. I pour it into a glass and I blind review its blind whiskey ass. Today, however, is not a typical 1 Ounce Wednesday. Today is, because everyone enjoys them, seemingly anyway, I don't know, unedited, uncut, unfiltered, or whatever. We're just going to go ahead and let it run. So everything you get here is pure me without any bits of me cutting me out to make me seem smarter or more beautiful than I actually am. Also, it's not a typical 1 Ounce Wednesday because throwback episode, back to the old what's in the box days, my wife poured this sample from me out of the 1 Ounce Wednesday box. I don't know if she looked at the sample. I don't know if she dug through the samples to see which one she wanted to pour, or if she just grabbed a random one out of the box. I was checking the mail while she did that. A little bit of a trade ski. I'll check the mail, you pour the whiskey. So that's where we're at. This is the whiskey she poured. She put the sample in this Michter's Rocks glass box because it's all I could find. It's all that was handy at the time. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna give this whiskey a review, and then we'll see what my beautiful wife decided to pour for me and you, but mostly for me, because I'm the one drinking it. Bourbon, old bourbon. That is, oh boy, 12, my meter is running. It's like ticking 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's 12 years plus. 12 years plus so far. Definitely a bourbon whiskey and definitely familiar. My hot water heater is crackling as I'm shooting this. I don't know what it's up to, but every time it makes hot water, it crackles like a popcorn maker. Every time I flush the toilet, it crackles like a popcorn maker. I'm hoping that it is either normal or failing and not about to blow a hole through the ceiling above our heads, because that's where we sleep and that'd be bad. Anyway, so you can hear the popcorn sound. Hot water heater. I'm not splurging on popcorn, although some people would do that. Not me, I don't like popcorn. Fun fact about me, don't like the kernels. They get stuck in your teeth. It's just not my treat of choice. Just not my treat of choice. This is very caramelly, a very caramelly pour. Caramelly and oaky, very succulently sweet, Yeah. Distillery, my brain is going somewhere, but I'm not quite sure where. You know what I mean? It's like one of those Tesla cars that has the autopilot, and it's the one that you get in when you're riding Uber, and the driver is just shopping for houses on the gigantic computer screen in the front, and the car's just driving, and you know where it wanted to go, but you're just never sure if that's actually where it's headed. Things are scary. Man. Aged Heaven Hill, or maybe aged Jim Beam, like, man, this reminds me of a very old Heaven Hill product. Hard to say, but it is like the best of oaks and the best of like the caramels and just the sweetest, oakiest, most beautiful put together bourbon you've ever seen. If bourbon made a swimsuit edition, this would be the centerfold. And I would flip right to it and show my friends. Yeah, it smells very, very good. Color on it also very nicely dark. I should have had her pour this in the Golden Glen so that it had no observational skills with my eyes, but I want to give myself every advantage I can. That is what some people consider to be cheating. That is what I consider to be super smart. All right, down the hatch. 1 Ounce Wednesday. Here we go. Not quite what I expected. That is a little bit of a differentiator. That is slightly obscure and not exactly what I had in mind. That's not doing the things I thought it was going to do when it did it, if you know what I mean. It's doing other things. A bit shinier and brighter and more like rye forward than I thought, potentially. Could it possibly because I was tasting barrel samples of rye before this? Maybe. Or it could actually be a more rye forward product than I originally imagined. On the nose though, it's not going there. On the nose though, it's like super sweet, delicious bourbon. Oh, the hot water heater finally shut off. Wow, it's giving me anxiety for some reason. Now I can think clearly. I can think clearly now, the hot water heater shut off. I can smell all stuff in my glass. That's why I should just stop. Unedited, this is not a great idea to sing. Second sip. Seemingly low proof, possibly around 100. Not nearly as old as I originally thought. Maybe around 8 years old. And 8 years old, 105 proof, high rye bourbon, possibly. Let's see. Do I love this? It's reminding me, damn it, why did I drink all the ryes before this? Why did I taste all those? Because now in my head I'm like, what if I'm just reverting back to what I had previously tasted minutes ago? That can't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. Unless, of course, it is. In which case, I'm a head case. Third sip. I do not know what this is. This, you know what? The nose had me happy, but the palate has me not nearly as happy as I thought I would be, whatsoever. And I'm not sure if it's a palate thing or if it's a whiskey thing, but it's sharp, it's pretty astringent, not a ton of flavors are like coming through in the best of ways. They're not doing their thing the way that you would like them to do. They're just kind of a bit hush hush. And when you ask them to open up, they get angry and a bit brash with you. And the conversation is very short. And they tell you to go to hell. And you're like, that's not nice. And they're like, well then go yourself. And you're like, that's less nice than the first thing you said. And then you realize that there's really no reasoning with these tasting notes. As a matter of fact, you just need to tell it like it is. And they're a bit brash and a bit harsh, and I'm not quite sure if I like them. Maybe they're just having a bad day. Or maybe fourth sip. Yes. There's not a ton going on. It's kind of like, I'm gonna guess this is a high rye bourbon. This reminds me, honestly, of the Baker's 7-year high rye single barrel that I reviewed yesterday, but not as nutty. More like wheatier or like grainy, honeyier. Like a honey wheat with a brash rye attached to it. Not saying it's a wheated bourbon, quite the opposite. It's kind of like faking you out with a fluffy honey-like sweetness right away, but then immediately turns on you and starts asking you if you're a sinner, and you don't know how to react because you've never had a priest breathing down your neck before in a room that is disconnected from the rest of the children in the church. That happened to me once, obviously. Nothing else happened, though, that I can remember. This is why I edit videos. Yeah. Back to the whiskey. I'm not quite sure if I love this or even like it very much. Huh. It's a bit tea-like. Like if you had a shitty tea that got you slammered. I don't know. Whatever is in this glass is fine. It's not something that I don't think I would go to it very often. It's not something that I'm excited to see what it is. When I see what it is, I'm probably just going to be like, huh? 6.1. It's a 6.1. It's whatever. I'm not hating on it. I'm also not like discouraged by it or super happy about it. 6.1 might be a little low. If I were into rescoring things, I might go a little bit higher, but no higher than a 6.4. So just take that for what it's worth. What were we tasting on this 1 ounce Wednesday? This is always scary because I'm not sure if I'm going to embarrass myself or who knows what. What did Carissa pour me today? She poured me. There's no flipping way. Jack Daniel's Special Rye, 130.6 proof. That's got to be a bad sample. I said 100 proof. I did mention its rye qualities. I did say it was not impressive. I also said I was tasting ryes before this. Son of a bitch. Well, that means it is one of my favorite ryes ever. Jack Daniel's, it's not the single barrel proof, but it's the one before that, the special edition rye barrel proof, like the original rye barrel proof. Truth be told, I did pour that sample in this sample bottle when there was only an ounce left in the bottom of the container, so excuse me, I hiccuped, but it's unedited, so you saw it. That didn't taste anything like Jack Daniel's. It also didn't taste 130 proof. I'm wondering if this sticker came off of something else and landed on that. I don't think it did, but possibly. I should stop talking. I will stop talking. And I'm embarrassed by that score because there's no way that a Jack Daniel's special release barrel proof rye would receive a score so low. Not on my watch. And it doesn't smell like it. What did I do? It has none of the characteristics of that bottle whatsoever. It is flat. It is like spiky. None of the Jack Daniel characteristics are like shining through. I don't think I'm getting sick. I think my palate is fine. I just tasted through some rye whiskeys earlier and kind of found out that, you know, which ones were good and which ones were bad. So who's to say if the sample I poured was even good or not anymore? I guess sometimes on these 1 ounce Wednesdays, you're just gonna look like a doof. And by doof, I mean whatever the hell I just looked like. Because that was not very good. But I know I love that bottle. So what do I stand by? Do I stand by see, this is where I edit myself out when I start mumbling and babbling, but I won't. You'll hear what I just said. The mumble and the bumble and the ramble and the bamble. But what I was trying to say was, do I trust my blind review of a sample, or do I trust my heart, my gut, and the other 24 ounces that I tasted ever so sparingly out of that Jack Daniel's Special Release Barrel Proof Rye bottle. I'm going to stick with my gut and my heart and say that that bottle was great and phenomenal, and I loved every sip. Turns out the last ounce in the bottle, after it sat in that sample glass for God knows how long, was not great. And I'll have to live with it. So take this review with a gigantic grain of salt, like a huge Himalayan sea salt grain, before it was even chopped down into coarse bits. And speaking of coarse bits, this is where I call it quits. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to the channel. Hit the thumbs up if you haven't hit the thumbs up. Like I always say, keep your head in the clouds but your mind on dressing up as something for Halloween. Like, I don't know. As a dad, you know what? Probably don't do that. I mean, if you're a single dude or chick or whatever, do it. But if you're a dad, probably go the opposite way. 'Cause lots of reasons, but just dress up as, I almost said, but that would have been even worse. Just make sure your kids are safe. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.